us up. Where's Elise?
So
Here I am.
Hey.
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 Over there and down there.
all right, so we are about to.
Huh?
I'm just working every day.
Are you?
Yeah, all is well. All is well.
Good. Good.
I
It's so
miss
good to
you.
see you. You know, we don't get to see anybody, so
All right.
yeah, it's good to see you.
Absolutely, it's good to
you.
see.
Good to see you. I miss my hugs from you, Sheila.
I miss my hugs too. I miss hugging.
Yeah,
You know,
I
that's
understand.
you know, that's like taking a good bottle of vodka from a wino.
All right. That's such an elegant way to describe that, Mother. Thank you.
Look,
Bottle of wine away from a wino.
everybody knows I'm real. Okay.
Absolutely. Okay.
Hey,
All
Sheila,
right.
Yeah.
Sheila, I really like your laughter. That's great.
Me
Thank
too.
you.
Okay.
No,
So
I'm
who feels
real.
like doing our? I'm sorry. Go ahead. Who feels like doing our meditation? Any takers? Other than, anybody other than the Reverend Sheila Gautreaux or myself?
I'll do it.
All right.
I'll do it.
Okay.
You got a
All
bowl
right.
here.
Beautiful. All right, we got the singing bowl this time.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Give us
Do that
Give us
again.
one more, William.
Yeah.
Give us one more, William. All right.
Ooh, yes. Ah.
So in this moment, as we gently close our eyes and focus on our heart space, breathe into your heart and let the breath out slowly. Know that as you focus on your heart center, the place where God resides in you and provides a way and ways for you to express all that you are in God, that this is a safe place. It is a place of peace. It is a place of belonging and comfort. And as we nestle in this place, we know that we are expressions of God. We are the light sent here to express. And as we share with each other tonight, we know that God is not just present, God is us. We are God, and that all is well in spirit. And it is from spirit that we should move and have our being. And we are grateful for this opportunity to express that, to share that, to grow from that. And for these blessings and the blessing of breath that is life, we are so grateful. And we say, thank you, God. Amen. And a woman. And so it is.
All right. A man and a woman. And as we are still in this meditative state, let us begin with our prayer to begin A Course in Miracles. I am here only to be truly helpful.
I am here only
to be truthfully helpful.
I am here to represent Him who sent me.
I am here to represent God who sent me.
I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do.
I
You
do not have to worry
about
to say
what
or what to do.
what to do.
For He who sent me will direct me.
For God who sent me will direct me.
I am content to be wherever He wishes,
I am content to be wherever God wishes.
knowing He goes there with me.
knowing God goes there
there with me.
I will be healed
I will be healed
as I let him teach me to heal.
as I
As
let
I
God.
let him teach me to heal.
So it is.
And so it is.
All right. Okay. So we are in a new part, the dynamics of the ego, part 5, or it could be part 6, depending on what version of Course in Miracles you have, because there are several versions out there. So part 5 or part 6, the dynamics of the ego. We got a few more people that joined us. And so let's see. The first person on was Bill. So I'm going to mute everyone else really quick. And Bill, would you mind? Hold on one second. Let me just kind of mute people. Or would you all mind muting yourself? I don't, want to have to do that. Claudia normally does that, and she's taking care of something right now. So if you don't mind muting yourself while Bill reads, it prevents some of the noise and background noise and echoes. Thank you so much. Okay, Bill.
Section 5, the dynamics of the ego. No one can escape from illusions unless he looks at them. For not looking is the way they are protected. There's no need to shrink from illusions, for they cannot be dangerous. We are ready to look more closely at the ego's thought system, because together we have the lamp that will dispel it. And since you realize you do not want it, you must be ready. Let us be very calm in doing this, for we are merely looking honestly for truth. The dynamics of the ego will be our lesson for a while, for we must look first at this to see beyond it, since you have made it real. We will undo this error quietly together and then look beyond it to truth. Wow.
Okay. So, Bill, tell me what you think.
Well, I think right now I feel really happy that I got to read this part, because I love this little section, and it is so lined up for what I started to share about a little while ago before the group started. This whole idea that you can't get away from illusions, and I call it that could be all the misperception or mistaken beliefs we have in us. You can't get away from from them unless you look at them and actually see them. And of course, not looking is the way they're protected. And this is talking about the ego's thought system. And I've been doing Course in Miracles for some time, and over the years, there have been periods of intense fear and terror come up, and walking through this stuff. And I thought that if it weren't for good teachers and guides in this, I would have thought that meant I was doing something wrong. When I was told, and I know that to be true today, that meant I was making progress. Because there's this stuff that I carry, I'll keep it to me, that I was carrying around that I had no idea that I was carrying around. And that's how, that's what it means until you look, that's how they're protected. Because it's all illusory, but somewhere, sometime, I believed it to be true. And it all comes down to core beliefs I have about what I am, who I am, what God is, and one is related to the other. So when one shifts, what I think God is changes when I find out who I am. And I knew all this intellectually for years. I mean, I got the kind of mind that could read this and I could quote it back to you, a whole paragraph, but I never went on it in an emotional level, a feeling, really got into the feeling of it. I always liked this Unity teacher who he said, the life we live is basically a reflection of our most deeply held beliefs and feelings. And I was on board with my beliefs, but I didn't know about that feelings thing because I never knew how to feel things my whole life. From a lot of I learned how to shut all that off because there was too much pain early on. So lately I've been opening up to that, and it's been I feel like I struck gold again, and it's really looking at these things that we carry inside. It's basically a sense of self. They're deeply held beliefs that we have that we don't know we have. Like the Course says, if you saw your illusions, they wouldn't be there anymore. But how they stay is by not recognizing them, and not seeing them, and not being able to see them, not looking at them. And I knew all this intellectually, but when I do it on a process at a I call it emotional, spiritual level, it's very intense and truly liberating, because I'll stop in just a second, but it comes down to the basic idea in that how the lessons start out is, I'm never upset for the reason I think. And the 2 lessons later it says, the reason you're never upset because the reason you're never upset for the reason you think is because you're always seeing the past. And so all my current upsets that I might have today are something that's a trigger from the past of something that happened, that an old belief, an old something. And I knew this with my head for years, but lately the heart has been involved, and it's been to say powerful seems like too weak of a word, but it's been very powerful. So that's all I have. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Very well said, very thorough. Going out to the group, any personal revelations, any way that you can relationally see how this paragraph applies to your life? Because that's the key right there. I'll be honest with you. I'll share some things with you guys. That's how I grow. When I see this paragraph through your eyes, that's how I grow. I have Stephen Fleming perspective and perception about different things, and it could be somebody that just started reading A Course in Miracles last week, and this paragraph is going to say something to them that I would never consider, because they're saying it from a unique perspective of how something uniquely relates to them. So does this paragraph speak to any of you? I invite you to share.
Thanks, Stephen. And hello, everybody, and thanks for welcoming me. When it talks about the dynamics of our ego will be our lesson for a while. The first time that I read through this, I'm thinking, oh, good, it's only going to be a while. And then the second time I read it, I'm like, there really isn't a time frame here when they say a while. And now I know that I don't even have to concern myself with how long a while is, because I'm learning not to measure things, that is my mind just wanting that beginning, a middle, and end. And when it talks about For we must look first at this to see beyond it, since you have made it real. And that little phrase, since you have made it real, it just helps me like give myself a break with it all, you know, take it easy, know that I can choose, and this book reminds me, I can choose to learn these lessons joyfully. Taking a while doesn't have to be associated with a lot of efforting and pushing and, trudging along. That can be a really easy, pleasant experience, and a while doesn't deter me anymore. And the part about this is what we made real, I can see the blessings in this. This journey to see that I have made my own reality, and I get to change what I don't like about it, what makes me uncomfortable, whatever I want, as long as I look and don't try to, there's another place where it tells us how we try to rename it, change it into something that fits a box that we have a previous idea about. But I don't have to do any of that. Much of it has been done for me. But I'm really grateful to be here with y'all. Thanks.
Grateful to have you with us and grateful for what you just now shared. Thank you. Thank you. You guys made some very compelling points. Is there anyone else that wishes to share what this paragraph says to them? What do you get from this paragraph? What speaks to you? Mom, did you want to speak? Let me unpause
Yes.
you. Hold on a second. I'm so sorry, Mom. Hold on.
She's muted.
Sorry about that, Mom. Sorry, I had to mute us. So, okay. Go ahead, Mom.
I hope that's not because I talk too much, okay?
Nope, nope. It's just an echo.
No, I was just being funny. The interesting thing about this paragraph and all of Course in Miracles where the ego is concerned, nowhere does it say that the ego ever completely goes away. What happens is we no longer choose to hear its voice. As we move further and further away from our dependency upon it, the power that we gave it, the idea that we need it, and that's how it stayed so grand and powerful for so long. But the more we find out that we are the power, that the power is within us, not the ego, and we have no need of it, it gets quieter and quieter until we can no longer hear it. But nowhere does it say that the ego goes completely away. And I always found that interesting. And some real, highbrows in Course in Miracles agreed. They said, yes, it does not say anywhere that it actually goes away. But it's when we choose to no longer hear its voice, it's silent, because all we can hear is the voice for God.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Mother. And, I could even find a section where it actually ultimately says the ego will not be destroyed, that the ego will just merely be reinterpreted and added to the kingdom. That's exactly, what will ultimately happen with the ego. It won't be destroyed. And, people that tell you in the Course in Miracles that it is going to be destroyed, ask them to point that out to you. Okay? Because I can point out anything that I say. I can, during the next Thursday meeting, I can show you exactly where A Course in Miracles says that. Okay. So, but thank you. Very, very, very compelling, all three of you. Thank you so much. Is there anyone else who wishes to expound on this paragraph?
Stephen, I think when Sheila, when you were talking, I was thinking, a lot of the time I'm able able to silence the ego in normal everyday life. But I'll tell you what, the collective ego is screaming, screeching in our society, in our world today. What I like about it, the ego wouldn't need to scream that loud if it had a lot of power. And I think, remember years ago, we used to say, "Ooh, the devil is busy," you know. That's how I see what's happening now. The ego is almost in a panic. The collective ego is almost in a panic, and we never know what we're going to wake up to, what the ego is going to invent tomorrow, because it's really in a panic. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Every time you think that, you know, that there's a certain peaceful order to thing, that, you know, there's something that rises up from the ego to argue for its existence. You're absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. So thank you, Sandy. Anybody else?
I have a
Yes.
question.
Yes. I'm sorry. Okay. Go ahead, Deb, and then Ziba. Sorry. Go ahead, Deb.
Okay, I was trying to find it where it says the ego is of the body. Somewhere in, I can't remember which course meeting I was reading it. So if the body is an illusion, am I thinking that correctly? It's an illusion. So when the body's no longer, well, we're no longer having that experience of the body, does the ego die?
The ego doesn't die.
Not die, but it.
Right.
And
Do you know what I'm saying?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying if it's of the body and the body's an illusion, when we no longer use the body, what happens to the ego?
Well, when it says it, sorry, go ahead.
The body's a learning device,
Right.
you know, that we learn from. You know, I don't know if an illusion is attributed to it. I don't recall in my readings of it where it actually refers to the body specifically as an illusion, but I do see it numerous references to learning device, where it's basically where we're here to use the body in order to learn. And as we experience erroneous thinking and things like that, the body will then teach us through the manifestation of various illnesses, and we'll feel things like anxiety and things like that. There's all these different, so there's numerous classrooms that we're in at any given moment. We're in multiple classrooms. Okay, so I would have to say that each and every one of us is in about 70 or so, and this is just an approximation, 70 or so or more classrooms at any given moment of our lives. Okay, so we're in classrooms with our friends, our relatives. We're in classrooms with our parents. We're in classrooms with our children. We're in classrooms with our love interests. We're in classrooms with our buddies, our bowling buddies, and things like that. So I mean, there's all these different classrooms that we're in at any given moment, at any given time, and so it's all like a process that's happening along with the body, and the body is a classroom as well. That's another classroom. So we're just in numerous classrooms because, you know, I don't know, because we made the ego real, like it says in this paragraph. I don't know if that even answers your question, Deb. Though.
It's really nothingness.
Okay.
I mean,
Ziba? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Ziba, you had a question?
Okay. I just wanted to add a few more words to what everyone had to say, and that is, we don't really realize, I mean, I have seen most people don't realize, and including myself probably, how important it is to see our thoughts or our ego. It is actually the beginning of awakening, because until we see our thoughts, we won't be able to take any real meaningful action spiritually. So, most people will think, well, I can see my ego, I can see my thoughts, but I'm still not, perfect. I do this or that, or make mistakes, or I sometimes follow my thoughts. Well, once we start seeing the ego, it's really hard to continue to um, identify with the ego. And once we stop the identification with the ego, that's escape. That's the release from the power of the ego. And, we can start becoming who we are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that's part of the ego's strength when it can operate in the background, when it can basically operate beneath the surface. But you're absolutely correct. Once we start shining light on the ego or the collective ego, the ego does kind of lose its power because it starts getting attention at that point. And so, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with you 100%, Ziva. Really good stuff. Really good stuff by all of you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You know,
Yeah.
Go ahead, William.
William, you had a question?
Yeah. I want to just add something that Bob Rosenthal was saying on a Zoom meeting that I heard him say. He told about a story about a person who had a friend that was dying of something, very ill, and he heard this really ruckus going on in the bedroom. I mean, he sounded really bad. And so he went in and he says, "Oh my gosh, you're in terrible pain." And the man looked at him and said, "Me? No, I'm fine. That's my body." Separating them. I thought that was quite a story.
I like that.
It is.
Yeah.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Now, it always helped me a lot because whenever I read the Course, I read ego this and the ego that, and it got into discussion about it. My mind would kind of go to like thinking like the ego is actually some type of entity, and it's not much different than old religion believing that there's something in existence besides God, aka the devil, and there's nothing in all of existence but God. Like the Course even teaches, God is all in all. And there is only, I like to say the ego, there's an egoic thought system. And only within that egoic thought system is there even a belief that there is an ego. See, we make mistakes in perception and then we say, okay, that's the ego doing it. We did it. We made a mistake in believing that there is something besides God and everything that comes from that. And we have to give it a name. And now we've created an entity called the ego. If God is all in all, where is this ego? It's only a belief. It's a belief in the mind that something can exist separate from God, right?
An illusion.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And, even the ego doesn't operate outside of the realm or scope of God. It's just, like you said, it's just an energy that we have contributed our divine energy to. But the ego just operates as a testing device, which actually, to be honest with you, is for our highest good while we're here in this asylum. So it basically, challenges us and tests us. And then, we feel certain things and stuff like that. And then, at that point, maybe we cry out to Holy Spirit or I've had enough or whatever. But ultimately, it still leads to learning. That's just the bottom line. It still leads to learning. So if this experience that you have with the ego still leads to learning, how is it bad? How is it not of God? You know? So the bottom line is everything that you're doing leads to learning anyway. The ego cannot operate outside the bounds of this. It cannot. The only thing it can do is test you. That's it. And you know, if we didn't have something testing us, honestly, you know, if we didn't have something testing us, we wouldn't grow.
Yep.
To be honest with you, we wouldn't grow. Okay, we wouldn't grow.
Yeah, I call it a stone in the road. There's always stones in the road that we stumble in. Learning. Yeah.
So, you know, again, you know, if you look at it from a perspective like where you kind of move back away and kind of look at it from more of an observation, like you know, just kind of removing all of the energy and all that other stuff, and just kind of get back and just be the observer. The ego is just playing its role. That's it. You know, it's just playing its role. And you know, bottom line is we're still going to God. So what is the ego doing anyway? Nothing except for playing this role. Thank God for the ego, because hey, going home. I mean, you know, when you look at it from that standpoint, the ego's not doing anything. You know, and just recognize it. That's all. Just recognize it. Don't have any anxiety over it. Just recognize it. And when that adverse ego starts to scream at you and starts to say certain things to you, and really try to push your buttons and stuff like that, just realize what's happening. You're not unworthy. You're not, you know, scum of the earth or anything like that. Just realize that you're just lying to yourself. That's all. That's all. That's it.
Yep.
So, any more about this paragraph before we move on? All righty. So, I believe that it was either Zeba or Elise that was on next. Was it you, Zeba? Were you on next, or was it Elise?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, would you mind reading, Zeba? Do you mind?
I would read.
Okay.
What is healing but the removal? Can you hear me well?
I can hear you just fine. Perfectly.
Thank you. What is healing but the removal of all that stands in the way of knowledge? And how else can one dispel illusions except by looking at them directly, without protecting them? Be not afraid, therefore, for what you will be looking at is the source of fear, and you are beginning to learn that fear is not real. You are also learning that its effects can be dispelled merely by denying their reality. The next step is obviously to recognize that what has no effect does not exist. Laws do not operate in a vacuum. And what leads to nothing has not happened. If reality is recognized by its extension, what leads to nothing could not be real. Do not be afraid, then, to look upon fear, for it cannot be seen. Clarity undoes confusion by definition, and to look upon darkness through light must dispel it.
All right. Thank you, Zeba. And so what do you think about that? What comes to you, Zeba?
Well, a lot. And maybe the most important part to me is number 2, which says, and how else can one dispel illusion except by looking at them directly without protecting them? So, you know, we can look and then protect, you know, what is an illusion, and that is not going to help us. So we want to look, but not protect. And,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
and then it says that when you look, you will find it fearful, because what you look at is fearsome. is something that creates fear. So look at it, but don't be afraid of it. And why not be afraid of it? Because it is not real. Just recognize that it's not real.
In relationship to the COVID-19 pandemic?
In relationship, what about the COVID-19 pandemic?
Yeah, what about it? That's not real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she's just talking in general about what frightens us isn't real. You know, as far as
and that frightens many people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You can look at it, in the same way. It's not real.
You know. And see, it's all about choice. In you know, with anything, we don't have to talk about COVID-19, but if we want to talk about COVID-19, we can certainly do that. But it's all about what we choose to focus our awareness on. So we can choose to focus our awareness on, like, you know, the news and all the scary stuff, and, you know, looking out our windows frighteningly, you know, afraid to, you know, to do anything because we think that, you know, and so that fear, you know, will just, you know, have you paralyzed and afraid to do anything. Or you can choose to focus your awareness on, while I'm in my quarantine, because I believe in practical ACIM. I believe in applying a Course in Miracles practically. So from the standpoint of where I'm going with this is, you know, I can choose to focus my awareness on, okay, what can I do then while I am in this quarantine? What can I focus on? What can I, you know, I guess I got a lot more time, you know, with myself, and to spend time with myself, and, you know, meditate more and things like that. So, and so I choose to focus my awareness on what I can do. If there is nothing that I can do, it's almost like the serenity prayer. You know, grant me the serenity of, you know, to accept the things I cannot change. You know, because if I can't, if there's nothing I can do about the coronavirus, then I'm not going to sit here and have anxiety over it. If there's nothing I can do about it, then I'm just going to go ahead and focus my awareness on what I can do. Okay, I'm going to focus my awareness on that, but I'm not going to sit here and be in fear about an impending, about me catching the virus, is what I'm saying. You know, I'm just going to go ahead. I'll go ahead and quarantine myself, but at the same time, I'm going to focus my awareness on what I can do at this point. What can I do then, since I'm going to be in the house? What can I do? You know, so I can meditate a lot more. I can get to know me. I can do this. And as a matter of fact, you know something, that's exactly what I did. That's exactly what I did during this whole time. And I experienced a growth, a creativity. And I started learning about broadcasting. And so now I'm broadcasting on Facebook and stuff like that. I'm learning all about that and helping out the Unity in Houston, Unity Houston and Espanol with their Sunday morning broadcast, and learning things that I never knew before COVID-19. Learning about all these different, and getting excited about it too. Learning about hashtags and ways to market on the internet and things like that. And learning about all kinds of things, getting excited about it. Which these things I wouldn't have known about had it not been for this COVID-19 experience. Now I can choose to focus, you know, and look at the death toll and things like that. And I understand, you know, if my brothers and sisters want to look at that, that's fine. But I can promise you, you're going to get a totally different experience than the experience that I'm having, where I'm just excited about all the things that I can learn.
Amen.
So, you know, but either way, they still need to learn it. It's still okay. They still need to learn it. It's still okay. I just for me personally, I just choose, you know, the route of doing what I can do in this particular circumstance, because I realize that there's a synchronicity of God in all things. There is still something that is happening that we must go through right now. And so the only type of the only type of suffering is because I have a problem with what's happening. That's it. That's where suffering comes from. The inability to accept what's actually happening. That's it. So fine, okay, I can't do anything about COVID-19. I don't work for the CDC. I'm not part of the municipal department where I can make decisions about municipalities and what people should be doing. So that's not anything I have to worry about. That's not my job. So I'm going to make the most of my situation, and and see what kind of light can I bring from this and share it. That's it. That's it. Anybody else?
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Anybody else? Anything from this paragraph or anything? Mom, I have you muted. If you have something to say, just raise your hand. I'll unmute you. No problem. Okay. Go ahead.
Control.
Right.
Go ahead, mother. Go ahead, mother. I love you.
What you just said reminded me of something when I was a flight attendant with United, and we were being trained for evacuating an airplane that had crashed or that had crashed in some water or whatever. And they taught us how to evacuate the passengers if it's a plane on dropped into an ocean or a river or whatever, or how to evacuate a plane that has crashed on the ground or something like that. And what they said was to do all you can, but when the water gets too high and the fire gets too hot, save yourself. Don't sacrifice yourself for the rest of the passengers. Get as many as you can out. And when the water is too high and the fire is too thick or too close, save yourself. And what you said just now, Stephen, reminded me of that. And it's like, you do what you can. And just like this whole thing about this virus, is that if there is something that we can do, then we do that. Okay. But other than that, we save ourselves by spending the time to go within and release the fears that we have, the doubts that we have, and so forth and so on. But we do something for the people around us, but then we have to save ourselves. And the way we save ourselves is by not buying into it. Because when we buy into the fact I'm going to get it, oh my God, I'm going to get it, I'm going to die, and so forth. Well, that's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And so you have just taken away your power. But by doing all you can out there, and then doing all you can in here, then you make a difference for the world and you make a difference for yourself. And that's healthy. That's what I'm saying.
Well said.
Oh, thank you, Martha. And we got a hand raised. Go ahead.
While we're speaking of this virus and going with what your mom said, I have been doing a lot of research because, like everybody else, I have a lot of time on my hands. But I'd like to share some information, if I may. And that is, there is a vaccine that has been developed and actually is patented. It has a smart device that can be administered as nanoparticles within the vaccine that once in a human being, if it's activated by 5G, then the biometrics of every individual can be read. That's the first thing. There are a lot of people who are not interested in vaccinations. On May 1st, there was a bill introduced into Congress by the Democratic representative from Illinois, and it has the signature of many Democrats on it. It's called HR 6666. And you can go to the government website and look at this. But in effect, it says that for anybody that is not vaccinated, a lot of liberties will be taken from them. So I just thought that while we all have time on our hands, and because there are powers that be who establish laws in this land which affect us, you guys might be interested in looking at that bill. It's got 4 6s after it. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Thanks.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So you guys, feel free to look into that. So does anybody get anything else from this paragraph?
I was going to, real quick, I see Ziba has her hand up too. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No.
Go ahead, Bill.
Okay.
All you guys, have a chance to speak. Go ahead, Bill, and then Ziba, and then Mom, and everybody. Go ahead.
One of my favorite things, it's like one of those bullet points in the course that brings me right back, when I get into all these discussions about the course and everything, and it reminded me when Sheila was talking that healing our mind, and the course says the sole function of the miracle work. That means soul, I got to really breathe in hear what it's really saying. It's saying the sole function of the miracle worker, that would be us, is to accept the atonement for himself.
Right.
And because it knows in doing so, all mind is one. And if my mind is not healed, it also says, seek not to change the world, but change your mind about the world. And it also says this course is either going to be believed totally or not at all, because it's either entirely true or not. And so, those things, those bullet points, like the sole function is to accept the atonement for myself. And it also, it says atonement is correction of perception, and if I am not at perfect heavenly peace, there's something in my mind that needs healing, not the world.
Absolutely.
And that just, I am not the victim of the world I see. I don't feel, and I don't have upset, and I don't have loss of peace because of what's going on in the world. I have loss of peace because my mind is misperceiving.
Exactly.
And the great deal about that, people don't like to hear it. I didn't like to hear that at first. I did not like, and I didn't even like the guy that said that the first time.
Had too much on your shoulders,
Absolutely, because people don't like to be accountable for anything. Thank you so much, Bill. Thank you so much, Bill. Ziba, you had something?
I just wanted to say the same thing that Bill said. So thank you, Bill.
Absolutely. Mom, you had something?
No, I was just jumping up and down in excitement when he said, about it's, not about what's going on in the world. Like I can't do anything about what's going on in the world, but I can do something about what's going on in me. I just got excited because that's one of my favorite concepts.
Absolutely. And see, for those of us that are brand new, and, I want you to understand, whoever you are, this is not directed at anyone, but for those of us that are brand new, A Course in Miracles teaches that peace comes from within. There is nothing out there. There is absolutely nothing out there. There is no salvation out there. Peace comes from within inside you. Okay? Your power comes from within inside you. Your salvation comes from within inside you. And if you don't understand that, it's okay. Because you know something, I didn't understand it at first either. I was looking for things outside of me to save me. I was looking for other people to change so I could be happier. I was looking for, outside circumstances to change. If all this stuff would just change, the world would be a much better place, So that was just how I thought, and it's a process. It's an understanding process. When you come, from world consciousness, it is about what's out there. It's about what's out there. Everything is about what's out there. But A Course in Miracles teaches that everything is within. Your salvation is within. Peace of mind is within. All you have to do is find it. All you have to do is find it, brothers and sisters. You have the keys to the universe inside of you. It is not outside with Congress or with the president or with world leaders or with your neighbors or with the mayor or with anything else. I mean, I wish them all peace and love and joy and let them do what they do and things like that, but they do not determine my peace, brothers and sisters. They do not determine my peace.
Preach, Rev.
And if and if they are determining your peace, I invite you to reclaim your power, to reclaim your authority. I invite you to do that. You don't have to, because you know something, there's still a lesson even if you don't. There's still a lesson. I'm here to tell you that anything that you do is okay. Anything that you choose is okay. Whatever you do is going to lead to a lesson, and you know something? Lessons still have the potential of learning, and all learning leads to God, so it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter. I just choose to look within. Whatever you do is up to you. Anybody else?
Let me share an affirmation.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I learned years ago. I think I got it from Reverend Lafayette Seymour.
Mm-hmm.
I am poised and centered in the Christ consciousness. Nothing can disturb the calm peace of my soul.
Absolutely. Thank you
Wow.
so much. And Zeba, you had something you want to ask? I saw your hand raised.
Yes, yes. I just wanted to add that, let's see why my peace is important. It's not just important to me, it's important to the collective, to everyone, because if I am not having peace, I will contribute that to the collective. If I have peace, I will share it with the rest of us, that peace. So what do I want to share? Do I want to share fear
Mm-hmm.
with everyone else, or do I want to share peace?
Absolutely.
That's
And
why it's so important for me to keep my peace.
absolutely. Thank you so much, Zeba. And it's just important to understand that this is just sharing here. We're just sharing. Nobody's here to say that any one way is right or wrong or anything like that. Okay. Believe it or not, A Course in Miracles teaches we're all the same being. We are all the same being. Going through these different experiences,
Mm-hmm.
all of us are going home though. We're just
Yep.
different manifestations of the same being. That means that you are me and I am you. Okay? That's what that means. I believe we have another person hand raised. Yes, go ahead, please. Your hand was raised?
Yes, it was. I just
Sorry
wanted
about
to
that.
write on what Zeba was saying. Yes, I think that obviously our peace has to come from within because the kingdom is within. But as we live here on this earth, we do give off energy, and some of the things beyond peace that we can share is also knowledge. And with what we share, it can fact, as you said, the collective consciousness.
Absolutely. And I agree with you. I'm not here to say or dispute anything from anybody. I'm here, I'm here open to whatever anybody has to say, because honestly, what you are doing is you are speaking your truth. And I am here to honor whatever your truth is. Just as if you like, honor my truth, and we don't have to think the same way. I want you all to understand that. As a matter of fact, the world would be very boring if everybody voted for the same person, everybody wore the same outfit, everybody ate the same food, everybody, went to the same church, everybody, believed in the same thing. I mean, the world would be out. Please
That's
stop this
hell.
world so I can get off. Please
Get off.
let me off of here. This is hell. I don't, it's fine. Have your truth, please have your truth. It is not about you believing my truth or me believing your truth. Your truth is your truth, and I accept it, I honor it, I love it, because that is your truth.
Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. I still think the world would be better if everybody was like me.
Okay, we need a drum kick on that one.
I don't want everybody to be
Alright.
like me. I like being different.
So, okay, moving on.
All right, you guys. So we're at 8 o'clock, so we're gonna go ahead and take an 8-minute break. So restroom break, water break, coffee break, whatever kind of snack break, whatever kind of break you want to call it. But we'll be back in 8 minutes. Hold on, dude. All right. We are back. Whew. Okay. So, did anybody want to discuss paragraph 2 anymore? Is there anything else that spoke out to anyone in paragraph 2? Deb, did you have anything come to you? You want to share about paragraph 2?
No,
Okay.
I'm
All
good.
right. Okay. All right. I want you to feel like that you get as much interaction here in this group as you do with the other Course in Miracles
Oh,
group. You know what I mean? You're trying to get
no.
me jealous and stuff. So
I was about to say, hey now. Y'all, all y'all are good. All y'all are good.
Hey, absolutely. It's like if I had time, I would spend time in other Course in Miracles. When I do get a chance, sometimes I go see John Moore. Sometimes on Monday nights when I get a chance. But with ministerial schools starting and stuff like that, I just don't see it. I maybe after a couple of weeks, after I get a handle of having 2 Bible classes and stuff, then I might be able to start venturing out. But right now, yeah. So, all right. Anybody else got anything about paragraph 2 you want to discuss? Any questions or comments? Or Mom, if you have anything to say, I need to unmute you. Everybody was muted. It wasn't just you. What did you say?
Let's go to 3.
Let's go to 3. All right. Everybody, are we in general consensus? 3. Everybody's ready for 3? All right. Okay. All right. So, Elise, do you feel like reading paragraph 3?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. You turned off your video, but we can hear you.
I don't know how to fix that.
It's okay. You
Okay.
feel like reading? You feel like reading 3?
Sure.
All right.
Let us begin this lesson in ego dynamics by understanding that the term itself does not mean anything. It contains the very contradiction in terms that makes it meaningless. Dynamics implies the power to do something, and the whole separation fallacy lies in the belief that the ego has the power to do anything. The ego is fearful to you because you believe this. Yet the truth is very simple. All power is of God. What is not of him has no power to do anything.
So what do you think about that, Elise?
What you believe is what is for you. So if you're believing in the ego, if you're believing that the ego has the power, then that's what happens for you in your life. If you are focused on God being all powerful and all that is real, and when the ego starts to tell you things, you just pull them off the stage like they used to do in vaudeville and at the Apollo Theater. You take that, what was it?
Hook.
You take that hook and you just pull that thought off your consciousness.
There you
And
go.
replace it with an affirmation of knowing what is real, which is God.
There you go. Amen, Elise. Amen. All right. Sending this on out to the group. What do you guys think?
Well, I just think that this paragraph is hilarious. And the reason I do is because it says, let us begin this lesson in ego dynamics. And then it goes on to tell you that it means nothing. So to me, that's funny. I mean, I know that there's a deep meaning, for it. And I know that this is the This is the comedy that we all participate in. I think I relate to it. That's why it's so funny, because I'm laughing at myself. That it doesn't mean anything. If you truly believe that God is all, then everything else is folly.
Yep.
However, there are times that I believe in the folly. I believe I get sucked into whatever it is. This morning I usually stretch while I'm watching 15 minutes of news in the morning, 15 minutes of news in the afternoon. And I was stretching while I was listening to the news and got so upset. Why is that? Because I was listening to the news. So I flipped the news off, I turned it off, continued my stretching, and guess what? I wasn't upset anymore, or wasn't as upset. So this idea that we believe in this, in the ego dynamics, the dynamics of the ego, it's folly.
Yeah.
Thank
Absolutely. You. And thank you, Sandy. And yes, Sandy, many of us are like you. I believe everyone's like you. No one's completely immune from the ego. Okay, so we all get sucked into that folly. Okay, and I wouldn't experience, if I were you, I invite you not to experience any anxiety over because it's just your humanity. It's just being human. And I mean, it's a lesson, and we're all here to learn these lessons. And just a simple awareness, that you exhibited, Sandy, that you were, you were like, okay, I see what's going on here, and you turned off the news and things like that, and then eventually it's just like catching your thoughts. That's all. You just catch your thoughts at that point. It's like, oh, I'm going into the story now, and then you come on out. You just pull yourself on out. I mean, and we get sucked in. I get sucked in. Next thing you know, I'm in a story. I'm in that story. And then whoa, this is a story. I can stop this story. I can always stop this story. This is a story I'm telling myself. That's all. And we are master storytellers, brothers and sisters. We are master storytellers. We can spin a story that goes so deep and is three-dimensional and has, all sorts of intricate detail and everything else. And then, it's real. This is real. We can create something that is just truly real, just by spinning that story in our mind. I'm telling you. And I mean, we're just masters at this, I mean, we are very proficient at this. So, yeah. Anybody else?
Well, you.
You're not muted, mother.
Oh, I'm not. I don't know. Most of the time I'm muted. Course in Miracles taught me how to really comprehend the scripture, choose you this day whom you will serve, God or mammon. Mammon is the ego. And, day actually, any moment, any second in a time, choose you continuously, consistently, which you will serve, God or the ego, because we can forget that the ego is out there, when we've been practicing this for a long time and doing well, and we can just forget that it's out there. And then all of a sudden something will happen where we find ourselves in an emotional moment. And the next thing we know, we're caught up in the ego. And so it's a consistent thing to make that choice over and over as to continue to serve the power of God and not the futility of the ego.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, we don't have any sports right now during COVID-19, you know? So I know my mother, you know, she's a huge sports fan. You know, she loves football. She loves basketball, things like that. You know, any sport, you know, any of the big names as far as sports athletes, yeah, I can tell you right now, I mean, the people that we've read about and see and stuff like that, like the Michael Jordans and the Kobe Bryants and the Steve Currys and all of them, those people take ridiculous shots in practice, okay? They practice. Kobe Bryant took, I believe it was like, what was it, like a couple of thousand shots per practice? I mean, I was like, who does that? What? You know, but you know, his game when he played was at a whole different level, you know, because just through habit. It was just through habit. And that's all this is right here, is just habit. It's just habit. And we're just, you know, just through habit. Yes, we get sucked in the story. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. That's what we do. We spin stories and we get sucked in them. That's what we do. Okay. So now that we're learning these things, we're getting out of it by habit. And it's not going to happen just, you know, okay, well, I learned it. Now I'm not going to get sucked in the story. Okay. But it's over time, as we continue to work on it, it's the same thing. Same thing with Michael Jordan and Kobe will be the same thing. Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant of getting out of the ego and getting out of that rabbit hole that we can spin. You know, we'll be so adept at it. You know, it's like, I'm telling you, just keep on doing it. Just keep on doing it. Just keep on doing it. And don't beat yourself up. Don't say, oh, I can't believe I fell for it. Okay, so what? It's okay. It's okay.
You learn by repetition.
Exactly. You learn by repetition. You know, don't beat yourself up. Give yourself a pass. Don't experience the anxiety. It's okay. You know, if you don't believe it's okay, just take my word for it. Steve said it's okay. It's okay. All right. You know. Tell yourself that Steve said it's okay to give yourself a pass. Okay. You know, I love you. Let yourself off the hook. Okay. Don't beat yourself up. If you fall in that web that you spin for yourself because you're a master storyteller, okay, you know, just give yourself a pass and get out. It's okay. Yeah. Somebody has a hand raised. Oh, Elise. Yes, Elise. Oh, Bill has his hand raised too? Okay. All right. So I saw Elise, and okay, Elise first and then Bill. Go ahead, Elise.
My mother insisted I take piano lessons, and I wasn't very good at it. I convinced her after 2 years. But she kept telling me, perfect practice makes perfect.
Absolutely.
What I mean, perfect practice.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Elise. Yes, Bill.
You know, I was just thinking, you know, with every time it's, you know, when we talk about that subject of the news coming on, you know, and getting sucked in, you know, and you know, I was sharing a little bit before the meeting and tonight, you know, that this dramatic or very powerful process that I've been practicing based on A Course in Miracles teaching. It's like the distilled 190 proof course hitting you right in the eyes, you know, and it uses our upsets as gold. You know, when I get upset, because Course in Miracles is real clear, I am never upset for the reason I think. So as soon as I say I'm upset because I heard something on the news, no, you're not. and it triggered something that I believe in. I believe about myself, and I believe that it's not true. So what I've been doing, you know, and it's been so powerful to me because it is A Course in Miracles. Because the Course says the reason I am never upset for the reason I think is because I see only the past. So it's a feeling that I get now that was there already. And that station, or whatever it is in the world, did not cause this feeling of upset. It was there already. Something was there already, and that just pushed the button, and it came up to our conscious awareness. So if I can use that to go back in the forgiveness process to discover where that I think is what this whole section is talking about. You can't escape from this unless you look at them. Because I don't know. It's just been so powerful for me lately and healing. And it's what the course teaches, I believe. It's just and it does it. You can do it so quickly. But all my life, I've always said I'm upset because but the teacher of this that I've been following, that I go with, he says, as soon as you say I'm upset because, the ego just stepped in and told you a story.
Exactly. To
keep you from looking within, like it says right here, seeing it for what it is, because it knows it's over. If you ever see it. So
absolutely.
It's been so powerful in my life lately that I couldn't help but share that,
Absolutely. And I appreciate you sharing that, brother. I definitely appreciate you sharing that. And I believe my mother and I, we were definitely talking about exactly what you're saying right there. And that, I invite anyone, if there is anything that you're experiencing today, just building on what Bill said, if there's something that you're experiencing that's causing you a lot of emotional anxiety or pain or something like that, I invite you to look within. Do not be afraid. I invite you to look within and see, if there is something deep within you, something within the past, a past hurt, a past pain that has not been resolved as of yet. Okay. And you may find an opportunity for healing an old past or an old hurt. Okay. And you may find an opportunity to heal that old hurt and what is presently causing you pain at the same time simultaneously. So I invite you to do that. I definitely invite you to do that. We all experience these things from time to time. So thank you, Bill. Thank you for bringing that up. And I just wanted to kind of build on that. Mom, do you have anything you want to say about that? Because, you teach radical forgiveness.
Yeah. Well, no, you hit the nail on the head. Just you look within in you. Where did this come from? It's one of the things that I will ask myself. Where does this come from? Because it didn't start right this moment. So where does this come from? And you begin to look at that particular thing that just happened, and the major upset it's bringing. And then it takes your mind back, and you can say, oh, such and such, and that happened to me when I was 12.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the same kind of thing. And I felt this same kind of way. Well, you didn't heal from the thing at age 12.
Mm-hmm.
And the universe wants you to heal. So what happens is, because we're always moving in an upwardly progressive movement of spirit, the universe will bring to you something else that will trigger the same kind of experience and reaction in order to cause you to say, wait a minute, this happened to me before, but I didn't heal it. So then you do the healing, and sometimes it'll have to happen to you maybe 10, 15 times, but it doesn't matter. We are made that way. We are made to heal. We are made to move into that perfect state that we really are. And so therefore, the entire universe is supporting us in moving toward our highest possibility. And so it'll keep bringing things to you to help you go back and heal the old stuff. Only thing is, they get like labor pains that get longer, stronger, and closer together. You know, they get more intense. And so, but once you recognize what it is and you realize where it goes back to, boom, you're in the present moment. You know what it is. You can heal it, prayer, forgiveness work, whatever. And that particular energy will cease.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I tell you what, I love this group. This is like a mastermind group and stuff like that. We've got, you know, counselors and licensed Unity teachers, Unity ministers, student ministry students. That's right, Deb, you too. You know, I mean, we have, licensed Unity teacher students. So anyhow, but I mean, we've got this whole mastermind group. Nancy deals with, I believe, psychotherapy or something like that, and counseling. So we got like this whole, Bill, has this, huge knowledge of the Course in Miracles. I love this group. This is like a mastermind group. Okay, that's exactly what it is. It's like a mastermind group. Okay, so if you've never experienced a mastermind group, look around.
Yeah.
Okay, because that's what you're experiencing right now, a mastermind group right now.
I love this group too.
Yeah.
And by the way, I started this group. Do you remember? I did.
Yeah, you invited me to start a Course in Miracle group, and I was like,
started it together.
Yeah, I was like, I don't want to do that. And yeah, I remember.
Yeah, we did.
All right. So, any other takers on paragraph 3?
I would like to just add something to what Reverend Sheila just said, and that is, if we look inside and we cannot find out what is there that is hurting us, then it helps if we focus on the emotion that we are feeling at that moment. Just
Absolutely.
by focusing on the emotion, we get to be familiar with it and feel it until it transmutes it's transmuted into light. And so that's another way to get.
Thank you, Zeba.
Yes.
Thank you, Zeba. I mean, that was beautiful. Thank you, Zeba.
I wonder, how long have you been meeting? When did you begin?
We began in January. Well, no, we began in March of 2018. March of 2018.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, all right. So, any more on paragraph 3 before we move on to paragraph 4? Any questions, or is everybody ready to move on? You guys want to move on? All right, let's move on. Let's see who is next. Now, that is out of Deb and Eileen. I don't know who was on first out of Deb and Eileen. Eileen, Deb, do you mind if I have Eileen read right now? Huh? Eileen, do you feel like reading?
Sure.
Okay. All right.
When we look at the ego, then, we are not considering dynamics, but delusions. You can surely regard a delusional system without fear, for it cannot have any effects if its source is not real. Fear becomes more obviously inappropriate if you recognize the ego's goals, which is so clearly senseless, then any effort on its behalf is necessarily expended on nothing. The ego's goal is quite explicitly ego autonomy. From the beginning, then, its purpose is to be separate, sufficient unto itself, and independent of any power except its own. This is why it is the symbol of separation.
So, Eileen, what do you think about that?
Well, I'm grateful that I know what it was like to believe all that, to to remember what it was like when I believed that having a strong ego was a good thing, when I believed that I didn't need anything but myself to take care of myself. If I didn't know something, that I believed I had the intellect to pursue the information and make it my own, therefore intelligent, therefore successful. And the relief that I experience now of just that ability to ask when I forget, that I really don't want to be under the guidance of my ego. I want to use the guidance system that never fails me, that is eternally peaceful, that will give me the answers, and just keep it really simple, because I don't need to know what's going to happen. I'm grateful that I can ask and see what happens to my fears. They're really not as powerful as I thought they were. And the symbol of separation, I know how that feels. And since I know how that feels, I can make the choice to feel better. And this book lays out a pretty explicit directions on what I do to feel better. And that's it for me.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Eileen. Going out to the group. Any comments? Any questions? Any interpretations, personal interpretations? What does this paragraph say to you? Nancy, you want to comment? Just unmute yourself, please. There you go.
Well, I've been listening to the last few shares, and I've been really trying to think about like why the staying at home in quarantine, why is that bothering me so much? It just doesn't make sense really, because I have been working so hard and running around and living very stressful life, just like the rat race. And I feel like I'm really fortunate that I have right now. I have people that's taking care of my son very well. Even I'm home and I'm working a little bit, and I get to exercise every day from go to the park. But I'm just realizing, I think I'm very, listening to the news all the time. And I think part of me, I'm just realizing the fear is the ego, is that I feel I should not be relaxed. I should not be relaxed and, staying home and, like I'm supposed to be running around. I think there is a element of, I don't know if it's fear or guilt, that I'm not really supposed to be, like, a lot of days I say I'm grateful that I'm forced into vacation almost, because I was really running around and coming home late every day, and every day is scheduled. And I know I'm eventually I'm gonna go back to that, but like I just got used to thriving or striving, and that's the ego, the I'm all the power, and here say all the power is God. I should be okay with whatever God provide, whatever is happening. And that ego, I think, is what make me feel like I just should be worried. I should be moving. I should be calling. I should be advertising. I should be having more clients. I should help more people. And I mean, that's it. That's what's saying to me. And I'm glad to be, because I was not really aware of that. I just know that I'm checking the news periodically every day. And part of me, I know, like, that's not me. I didn't used to be even watching any news at all whatsoever. But I think just listening to all the stuff about, like, you have to really see what you want to release. I really have to see what I need to let go of. And just sitting in here and thinking about, what do I need to let go of? What is that? What is that going on? Why I'm anxious and keep, and then other people are more relaxed than me. And usually I'm the one making people more relaxed. Usually tell people that everything is okay. But yeah, that is what's going on, is that in order for me to release it, I just need to identify it first. And that is what's going on, is the ego make me feel like I need to be what I need to earn everything. I just cannot just enjoy something that's coming my way. Like, yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely. And you know something, thank you for sharing that, Nancy. And, you're halfway there already, because they say the first step to healing is realization, realization. So, and you've already indicated that you have realization on some things, and you've already asked the question, what is it? So, the answer's coming. So just be ready for it. Be ready for it. And thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, Bill.
Real quick, I was thinking when Eileen was talking about, the ego, and talks about the dynamics of the ego, and it always has that in quotes, like there is no such thing, but you believe there's something besides God. Because you're in such a dream. So I'm going to talk about it as if there is such a thing. And,
absolutely.
And it reminds me of Bill Thetford, one of the scribes with Helen Schuckman that did this, and those two, I mean, him especially, he was not just a psychologist. He was one of the most world respected in the world psychologists, and spent his whole career exploring human behavior and how the ego works and how to predict, what for the CIA, what Khrushchev might do in Russia, by what he could actually tell human behavior. And he said, when he discovered what the course is talking about, he says, I can't believe I've spent my whole life studying something that does not even exist except in our imagination. He says, my whole career is after. He was one of the more respected in the world psychologists who studied human behavior, mental health, and this thing we call. He said, I'm studying something that's nothing but a figment of the human imagination, and we thought it was real. It's what it means here when it's talking about the delusional. It knows we believe in something beside that's separate from God. It knows
exactly.
It knows we believe this, so it's talking to us on our level.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Talking to us in the dream. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you, Bill. Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody have any more? Anything else from paragraph 4? Any questions? Any insights? I want you all to take in mind while we're in silence a scientific fact that the average human being sees through the lens of 80% negativity. And I've talked about that a couple of times. But that can't be disregarded right there. The average human being sees through the lens of 80% negativity. That changes things. It causes you to believe in monsters that are not real. Like, you know, like a child believes in, wants to check under the bed and check in the closets and things like that. Those monsters aren't real. They're not real. The child thinks they're real though, because they're real to the child. Okay. And that's all we are. We're children just growing and learning and things like that. And so some of these monsters are real. Seeing things through the lens of 80% negativity kind of brings some frightening images. It's okay. It leads to learning. It does lead to learning. And of course understands that we've been conditioned to see things this way. It understands that. That's why it repeats over and 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 over. This stuff isn't real. It's not real. Don't be afraid to look at it. Don't hide your head in the sand. Don't be afraid. Turn around and just look at it squarely and see if it still has that same magnitude, that same power. Take a look at it, and tell that fear, whatever that frightens you, tell it to walk around like a model. Go model those clothes, walk around, walk this way and turn around and walk that way. Let me see what I'm really afraid of. Let me see, chances are it's not going to be as frightening once you actually take a good look at it. Chances are you may see something that I was afraid of that. Really? So I invite you to take a good look at what frightens you and see if it still has that same energy that it had before you took that good look at it. I invite you. So that's all I want to say. Does anybody else have anything about paragraph 4? Because this is truly a powerful group, and we know how to go through a paragraph and just dissect it and just get all the meat. I had some family members, I go home to Louisiana, to New Orleans. I got some family members that, man, they could devour some food, and it'd be just nothing but a carcass by the time it was all done. And that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing to this course right now. You know what I mean? That's what we're doing. If anybody has any family like that, you know what I'm talking about. You go home, it's like, gosh, are we hungry? Oh, hungry are we? Just devour it. You feel sorry for the doggone bird. If it's Thanksgiving or something like that, just nothing but a carcass. Okay? And that's what we're doing to this Course in Miracles. I'm telling you, that's what just devouring it. Looks like somebody has their hand raised. Yes. Oh, you had your hand raised too, Bill? Okay, just one second, Bill. 1 second. Yes, go ahead.
Oh, I wanted to say, Stephen, it's the idea of praising the good so you can raise the world. So we need to look at things, but sometimes when I look at them, I think of be in this world, but not of the world. Yet my body is in this world. Now, my home is in Canada, and I couldn't get home because of this virus. So while I do all this research on this vaccine stuff, Canada is a country of 34 million. America is a country of 434 million. So you're like our big sister. Whatever happens here will eventually find its way there. And that's why I have spent this time doing so much research on vaccinations and what's in Congress, because I know that whatever happens here. Now, ultimately, I have great faith, but there's that little bit of me that says I am in this world. So I need to educate myself, because I do believe that the energy we put out there can become a collective force. And as I'm researching, I watched the parliament in Italy today, and they were so anti-vaccination. And then I look at what's happening in England were they saying, oh, we need to vaccinate everybody? And I'm thinking, oh my goodness. So I look for facts with primary sources. It doesn't upset me. It's giving me something to do, and I try to share my knowledge with people, because where we go one, we go all. We're all in it together. And anyway, I guess that's all I want to say. Thank
Oh,
you.
and thank you. And no, I appreciate you sharing. You were definitely sharing some things that we didn't know about. Yes, Bill, you had a question. I'm sorry about that. I didn't see you had your hand raised, Bill.
Yeah, just, well, as quick as I can make it anyway. You know, I just had to share this. When you were talking, Stephen, about don't be afraid to look within, you know, and look at that fear and everything and that upset, you know, and follow it. And I think Zeba shared earlier about just getting into the feeling, the emotion, you know, that energy there, you know. And this process I've been doing that I keep talking about because it's been so powerful in my life has led me back with seeming little upsets that happened today. And I've actually gone back in memory and followed that feeling back. And long story short, I went back to childhood trauma that I had, maybe 2 years old. And right into being there and the trauma and actually experiencing it to where it disappeared anymore. And I never realized that that was flavoring my emotional climate my whole life. And I had no idea until I went back. You know, the Course in Miracles does say the reason we're not upset for the reason we think is because we see only the past. Well, what does that mean? You know, and A Course in Miracles says in another place, and I can't quote it directly, but it basically says, you know, every moment of every hour of every day, you but relive the moment when terror took the place of love. Mm-hmm. So and I always did it kind of on an intellectual level. I would read it, but I'll tell you, and the Course talks, I never noticed how much it talks about feeling this stuff, you know, and I've learned how to block feelings my whole life. I didn't know how to do it even, but so there's something very powerful about what you just said about looking within, because our upsets were never, and Ken Wapnick, who was like one of the most, long original Course teachers, used to say, if he ever wanted to change anything in A Course in Miracles, he would change this one thing. He would change it to, I am never, 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 ever upset for the reason I think. Because we get upset, and the first thing we want to, what do we all do? I'm upset because.
Right.
And that is the ego just hooked you, or it's not true, because we're not upset for the reason we think. It's something that we have believed about ourselves from something earlier in our lives. And until we get to that, we'll just keep repeating those same feelings and upsets, and just keep going on until you correct the original mistake.
Absolutely.
And we made it up. It's all just something we made up.
All something we made up.
It's absolutely not real, like you said, but we take it that way. So we're living in that dream.
Yep. Master storytellers. Absolutely. Yeah. And the weavers of a dream. Absolutely. We are so beautifully powerful. You know what I mean? So beautifully powerful. I mean, infinitely powerful and not even knowing it. You know, it is just, oh my God, you know? So let's take a stab at paragraph 5. Debbie, do you mind closing us out with paragraph 5? You have to unmute yourself.
Here we go.
All right.
Paragraph 5 says, every idea has a purpose, and its purpose is always the natural outcome of what it is. Everything that stems from the ego is the natural outcome of its central belief, and the way to undo its result is merely to recognize that their source is not natural, because being out of accord with your true nature. I said before that to will contrary to God is wishful thinking and not real willing. His will is one because the extension of his will cannot be unlike itself. The real conflict you experience then is between the ego's idle wishes and the will of God, which you share. Can this be a real conflict?
All right, so you got a good one right there, Debbie. So what do you think about that?
I love that last paragraph because I have felt that tug of war between my ego and that inherent thing that I know is within me. And I call it crazy making.
Okay.
That's what it feels like. I've had moments of struggle, strain, wrestling within me. And I have to ask myself, what is that? What is that sensation? Because that does not feel like peace or joy or love. And so once I could identify that the struggle was the ego, whenever the struggle would come up, I got to the place where more and more quickly I would just say, no, that's not true. And just accept it, recognize it, but release it. Anytime I feel any kind of struggle, I'm like, nope, that's the ego. And so that paragraph right there is the one that really stood out to me. Every idea has a purpose, and its purpose is always the natural outcome of what it is. So the ego purpose from the paragraph before is simply to separate, and that's what will happen. That its core personality, and from that is only separation, period. Nothing else, nothing bonding, nothing binding, just keep us apart from each other and God.
Kind of what Eileen was saying, as well as it kind of ties into what Bill was talking about as well. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you. Going out to the group. What do you guys think? And I invite you all also to definitely go and check out some of the lessons. Definitely check out lesson number 6 that Bill is talking that Bill has brought up several times in several Course in Miracle meetings. I was on that lesson for about a month when I first started reading the Course in Miracles, because I just didn't get it. What is it talking about? I'm not upset for the reason that I think. I don't get that. So it took me a while to truly understand lesson number 6. So I invite you all, just in your spare time, or if you all, there's a lot of truth in that statement. I'm not upset for the reason why I think. When we assign a story, well, I'm upset because I saw this, because that, because is not the real reason that you're upset. And that's what, what my good friend, Bill, my brother, has been emphatically saying, that, hey, and I'm with you. I agree. Between lesson number 6 and my constant assertions that everybody's perfect, hey, it's, no matter how we see ourselves, I invite you all to at least take these things into consideration, but going out to the group, what are you all thinking of 5?
Stephen, I don't know if you realized, you might have said it by mistake, but it's lesson 5. You said 6. I don't know if you're aware of that or not.
You're right, lesson 5. I'm not upset for the reason why I think. Yeah.
It up now. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you. Does anything speak to anybody? We got 3 minutes. 3 minutes of revelation.
I'll say something if I can.
Of course.
It seems like sometimes thank you. Sometimes it's almost as if the ego is a garment that we wear, and we wear that garment because we're not in contact with that which is truly in us and of our maker. That light is in us. I think sometimes we get so caught up in life that the ego is the garment. We think that's who we are. And we use it in many cases in life to defend things or to feel. I'll give you an example. The other day, I was driving one way and somebody pulled out. So I saw I could get the spot, but at the same time, there was a young lady parked parallel and she got in her car. And I wasn't sure if she was leaving or if she was moving her car to the empty spot, but I could feel her energy. And so I just stopped and paused and let her make the decision. And so she took that parking spot, and then I just went and took hers. So it was a win-win for everybody. But, I just felt the energy of what might have happened if my ego had said, well, I'm on the side of the street, I can park here first. I mean, it was really a nothing. And there's so many nothings in our lives that garment that we wear instead of what's inside of us to manifest out. So
Absolutely.
that's what I'm kind of taking away a lot from this evening,
Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And also, the ego is just a reminder of it's just it's just when we forget who we are. When we forget who we are. I mean, that's it's like it's our forgetfulness that there's nothing but God. So it's like the ego is basically like our forgetfulness, and the experience that we get from that forgetfulness, when we're in fear or when we feel defensive, we feel like we're being attacked and things like that. That is our that's basically our what we're experiencing out of that experience of separation or ego consciousness that is really yearning to pull us back towards alignment. It's really if you look at any feeling that doesn't feel good, anything that's other outside of joy and peace and things like that, it's just something that's in play to get us back into alignment with who we are. And that's all it is, to be honest with you. Just keep it real simple. I don't want to demonize the ego or any of the experience. I'm not saying that that's what you were doing. I'm just saying I don't want to do that, or paint it as something that's bad or anything, or paint anything in this experience as anything other than beautiful. Even when we're in pain or suffering, even when we are afraid and stuff like that, this is a beautiful, beautiful journey, brothers and sisters. This is a beautiful journey. It's like a field of flowers. Even when you reach down and prick yourself on a thorn or something, as far as like a rose or something like that, it's still all beautiful. Everything is all beautiful because it all leads you home. This whole journey leads you home. So we are pretty much done and we're out of time. My timekeeper didn't say anything. I don't know what's going on, William. I mean,
I'm just letting you. I'm letting you ramble a little bit.
I'm sorry, Elise. I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand raised. Go ahead, Elise. I'm sorry about that. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say it's all a lesson. These are all lessons. If we approach it that way and don't get uptight about it and don't get upset with ourselves and start judging ourselves, just open ourselves to learn. And
Amen.
it's all good.
Amen. 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 And like my mom says, a women. So speaking of my mother, would you mind, and I have to unmute you first, would you mind closing us out in prayer, please?
I'll
I'd
give a
love
little.
to. I just had one thing I had wanted to say, but I kept waving. Nobody saw me. But anyway, I just wanted to share with everybody. Make a practice this week. Stop shooting on yourself.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah,
mm,
yeah, absolutely. I invite you to do that too. Stop, or I invite you to at least think about, reassessing what should be and just allow what really is and allow beautiful acceptance. And anything that gets in the way of that is just illusion, and it's okay. It's okay. Thank you, Mother. I appreciate that. Thank you. That's a reminder that I need to heed from time to time. Absolutely.
So thank you. Let us go into our hearts in gratitude. For we are truly grateful for this powerful time together, where all of our minds and hearts and spirits were joined for one purpose, to know God more. And go before us, Holy Spirit, preparing our pathway for success and divinely ordained outcomes, that we may follow your divine will for our lives and raise ourselves to live within the kingdom of heaven right here, right now. We are grateful for each person in this group and the love they bring and the brilliance they bring and the excitement of the energy that transpires when we're all together. And keep us joined at our hearts until we're together again next week. And may we truly know that all is well, because it could not be otherwise. In the name and after the loving nature of our elder brother, wayshower, and master teacher, Jesus the Christ, we say amen and our women.
Amen. And amen.
Amen.
All right.
And all women.
Thank you so much, people. I mean, I tell you what, I'm just full right now. I just have this full feeling from just sharing with all of you. Zeba, Deb, Nancy, Elise, Mom, Bill. Thank you so much, Eileen. It was wonderful to hear some of your interpretations as well. It was just beautiful. Like I said, this is like a mastermind group. We just ate that turkey we just ate it like some carnivores. I mean, that sucker is just gone. It's just gone. Okay. So I want to thank you all so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Likewise, yeah.
everybody. I
God bless
love
Thank you,
you.
Love you,
everybody.
Love you,
You
everybody.
too.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Blessings.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Adios.
Adios.
All right.